In the heart of Al-Andalus, during the golden age of Islamic civilization in Europe, there stood a small but thriving town known for its scholars, poets, and devout worshippers. Among the town's most respected inhabitants were a couple, Imam Ahmad and his wife Aisha, whose piety and devotion to Islam were known far and wide. Imam Ahmad was a preacher, his voice often heard echoing through the grand mosque, while Aisha was a woman of wisdom, beloved by all who sought her counsel. Together, they were the pillars of their community, raising their children with the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, ensuring they were always on the path of righteousness. Ahmad and Aisha had 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son. Their eldest daughter, Fatima, was a model of modesty and devotion, known for her knowledge and love of the Quran. Their youngest daughter, Layla, and their middle child, Maryam, were also growing up to be pious young women, reflecting the teachings of their parents. But it was their only son, Yusuf, who was Ahmad's pride. Ahmad had great hopes that Yusuf would follow in his footsteps, becoming a leader in the Muslim community, guiding others with the same wisdom and faith that had made Ahmad so revered. However, as the years passed, Yusuf's heart began to drift away from the teachings of Islam. Drawn by the allure of the world beyond the town, Yusuf became enamored with the wealth and indulgence that life outside the walls of the community offered. He abandoned his prayers, stopped attending the mosque, and began to associate with those who cared little for the faith of their forefathers. Despite all their efforts, Ahmad and Aisha watched helplessly as their son strayed further and further from the path of righteousness. They prayed incessantly, sought the advice of wise scholars, and even tried to bring Yusuf back with gentle reminders of his duties as a Muslim. But their son's heart was hardened, and he refused to heed their pleas. The town soon became aware of Yusuf's wayward ways. The whispers began, and the respect that Ahmad once commanded began to wane. How can he preach to others when he cannot even guide his own son? The people would ask. The mockery grew, and before long Ahmad, weighed down by the shame of his son's actions, stopped delivering sermons altogether. He withdrew from the community, spending more and more time in the solitude of his home, his heart heavy with sorrow. Aisha, too, was deeply troubled. She confided in her closest friend, Hawa, who was known for her negligent ways with her own children. "I always chastised you, Hawa, for not paying attention to your children. But look at me now. Despite all our efforts, we have a son who has turned his back on everything we taught him, while your children, who you barely guided, have turned out upright." Aisha lamented one day, her voice trembling with grief. One evening, Fatima, who had been quietly observing the pain of her parents, called them to sit with her. Her face was calm, but there was a deep seriousness in her eyes. "Mother," she began, her voice soft but firm, "I know that Yusuf's actions have brought you great sorrow, but I want to remind you of something very important. We can do everything right, raise our children with all the love and care in the world, and yet they may still stray from the path. This is not because we have failed, but because Allah's decree is beyond our understanding. Allah tests His servants in many ways, and perhaps this is our test." Ahmad looked at his daughter, his eyes filled with despair. "But how can I continue to preach to others when my own son is so lost?" he asked, his voice breaking. Fatima smiled gently at her father. "Father, do not let the whispers of the people divert you from your duty." The story of Prophet Noah, peace be upon him, comes to mind. Despite being a prophet, he could not guide his own son, yet his faith never wavered. You must continue your duty to Allah and to the people. This is your test, and you must be steadfast. Aisha, tears streaming down her face, spoke up. "But what about the pain of seeing Yusuf stray so far? And why do I see Hawa's children, whom she neglected, becoming upright, while my own son has turned away?" Fatima took her mother's hand and held it gently. "Mother, Allah's wisdom is beyond our comprehension. Hawa may have children who are outwardly upright, but what you do not see are the rewards you have earned through your efforts. You have struggled, prayed, and done your best to guide Yusuf. In the sight of Allah, your efforts are not lost. You have rewards that Hawa does not have because you never abandoned your duty as a mother. Remember, everyone's test is different. We must do our best and rely on Allah for the final outcome. knowing that whatever He decrees is for our ultimate good. Ahmad and Aisha found comfort in Fatima's words. They realized that Yusuf's actions, though painful, were a test from Allah, and it was not for them to question His wisdom. With renewed strength, Ahmad returned to the mosque, once again standing before his congregation. When questioned about Yusuf, he would simply say, "We have tied our camel, and now we trust in Allah's decree." The community began to see Ahmad and Aisha in a new light. They saw the strength of their faith and the wisdom in their acceptance of Allah's will. They learned that life's trials, no matter how difficult, were an opportunity to grow closer to Allah. Yusuf never returned to the path his parents had hoped for, but Ahmad and Aisha continued to pray for him, accepting that his journey was in Allah's hands. They found peace in knowing that they had done their best, and that was all that Allah required of them. And so, Ahmad and Aisha's story became a lesson for all in Al-Andalus, a reminder that while we must strive and pray for the best, it is Allah's decree that ultimately prevails, and in that decree, there is always wisdom, even if we do not see it.